What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the Pick Swap podcast. It's Tuesday evening, November 30th. We're closing in, man. 5:25. It's been dark for a half hour. It's getting into those dog days, but I'm here with Sean Bernard, so we're gonna get into it. What's up, Sean?
Not much. Been a long break, so we had off Thursday for Thanksgiving, so ready to get back into it.
Yeah, man. Since the last time we talked, the Sixers have played two games,
Uh-huh.
both at home. One disappointing loss and one disappointing win, I think is the best way to put it. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. We'll talk a little bit about Matisse or Danny Green in the starting lineup. And then Tobias Harris, we'll get into a little bit of what he, I don't want to say struggling, but just what he's been up to recently. So let's get into this double overtime loss against the Timberwolves at home. Super frustrating just on a lot of accounts. The fact that they had like three different chances to close this game out and were unable to. It seemed like last night and on Saturday against the Timberwolves, they just got out hustled a
Yeah.
lot. And I don't know if that's just the circumstance right now, but what did you see from that Timberwolves game on Saturday?
Yeah, I mean, overall, probably the most entertaining Sixers game that I think's happened so
Yeah.
far this season. It was fun to watch. Disappointing ending, obviously. They kind of went through the motions through the whole first half, and it looked like it was the first game back with the regular starters in over 3 weeks since the COVID outbreak and everything, the injuries that have racked up, and you could see that everybody just wasn't on the same page from the beginning. The chemistry wasn't there. It was just like I said, kind of going through the motions, everybody feeling each other out. And they finally kind of flipped the switch after halftime, which was nice to see. But it was like there was a 20-point lull and down 15 pretty much consistently through that whole game. And then when it was finally turned on, like it was nice to kind of see the signs of life. And overall, I was very impressed with Embiid and finally seeing some takeover. And first off, just a huge shout out to him looking healthy and after the COVID spell to coming back, not really missing a beat and looking complete himself. And frankly, the knee looked better than when he went out. So a little bit of a blessing in disguise there. And he also said it was no joke him dealing with that. So happy that he's healthy and back. Uh, Double overtime. I mean, they had so many chances to win and couldn't find a way to capitalize. Those are the games we should win. And it is frustrating. The Sixers have consistently struggled to beat teams that they should beat. And the Timberwolves are no like terrible team, but they're definitely a team that the Sixers should be able to consistently rake up wins against. I guess that's the biggest frustration for me.
Yeah, and those like coming off a 6-game road trip and
Yeah.
struggling through all that and getting these guys back, and yeah, that was took a couple days off my life. I feel like watching that game, and Karl Anthony Towns goes out in the final seconds of the fourth quarter, so you got all of the first overtime, and you had 10 minutes of gameplay without their best player, and you let them still cook you and just run up and down the floor, and it was really frustrating on that in that sense because it just seemed like they got outworked in a handful of ways, and the Timberwolves are a young team that really have nothing to lose. I think they're just kind of playing, and I think it showed in the way they played. Like they get a rebound, they're throwing it up the court, and they're taking the first three they can, which like is modern basketball, I guess. But they had a couple, even like Anthony Edwards' last shot, I think at the end of overtime, I guess it was the end of the first overtime, where like he had 15 seconds, and then with like 5 seconds left, he just like slowly dribbled up and took a
Yeah.
deep three. And sure, it would have been a dagger, it would have been an awesome shot had he hit it for them, but just seems like I don't know, a pretty you're not Dame, I guess, is what I'm trying to say, and I feel like there's only a handful of guys in the league where I'm like, that should be the shot you take at the end of that game, but
Yeah.
it was super nice to see Embiid get back. 45 minutes is probably not what was in the game plan for him. I don't think that anyone was like, we should get him over 40 tonight. But still was what is it, 42 and 15 rebounds?
14,
I don't know. He now
14
leads the
rebounds. Yeah.
Sixers in Sixers history with the most 40 and 10 games, which is pretty insane. 40 and 10 rebounds. So
Hmm.
I don't know, man. It's mixed feelings on this one because like you said, it was nice to see Embiid get back and be healthy. But like I had a lot of bones to pick with them over the last couple of days.
Yeah. I mean, Edwards and D'Angelo Russell were both excellent.
Yeah.
Russell ended with 35 and 8 assists. Edwards 19, 7 and 6. Both great games out of those guys. Russell specifically took over in overtime, and he was giving Matisse the work for a minute there. And difficult when he's just kind of hitting tough shots like that. But Sixers couldn't find a way. Embiid had 13 of the 20 points in the overtime periods. There was a consistent down the stretch kind of going to him. he hit some incredibly tough shots too, and there were some turnarounds, some fadeaways, a lot of just kind of getting to his spot and hitting it, and got shots that are simply unguardable. So I was happy to see that. It did feel like his touch was back to me throughout
Yeah.
like the whole beginning of the season. There was kind of like it felt like his shot was just coming down heavier this year. And when we think about like in years past, the way it kind of just like settles on the rim and kind of just like soaks it in like a way that we see with like just shooters. That's rare for a big man, and I've always loved seeing that about Embiid. I feel like that has been the case, and it did feel like it was this way in the Timberwolves game. So I was very happy to see that back again, and that might just be his legs getting back under them. So, but
Yeah.
either way, that's great to see. Definitely frustrating down the stretch, and I'll let you go into your takeaways from the end of game. But yeah, I was happy to see that at least.
Yeah, I like that what you said there. I think that it did seem like we haven't seen that really. We've seen it in like in spurts and like small, like against the Bulls in Chicago, that late shot that he hit. Like we've seen that a few times. I forget who it was earlier in the year where was it the Pistons? It was the Pistons where Embiid hit that step back three in the last.
Mhm.
Like we've seen it in times, but like he really took over in that overtime, and we hadn't really seen that yet. But while that's really nice to see, right? Like I obviously all of us are happy to see Embiid take over. There's just not like any creativity. There's not like the Sixers cannot. We've seen this like year in and year out. They cannot just get down to the last minute or 2 minutes, 3 minutes, and just be like, Embiid, do whatever you want. And as good as he is, and as dominant as he can be, it's just really frustrating to see them, especially this early on in the season, to not be like experimenting. Like Tobias Harris took 7 shots. How did he play 45 minutes as a number 2 option on this offense and take 7 shots? The only thing that they were doing was Maxey would bring the ball up, run off that high
Yeah.
screen, and try to get the ball to Embiid at the top of the key. And they picked it off late in the second overtime, and it was a big change in the game where they could have closed it out there. And unfortunately, Maxey turned it over because their only option was dribble it over that side and try to, pocket pass to Embiid at the free throw line. And like it gets really frustrating to watch when the only option is Embiid, take your guy one on one or wait till you get doubled and then kick out. Like they don't set screens for him to get like touches on the block. That he just has to run down, try to post up early, and then like he's just banging with Naz Reid, who's like he's not a great player, but he's just not afraid to throw his body around clearly. And like
Mhm.
those guys are gonna double, they're gonna hit it, they're gonna hit him before he gets the ball. Like no movement with Curry. Danny Green was like, I don't even know where he was. Maxey has looked timid in the last 2 games, and we can talk about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
And like Tobias Harris, man, like I don't know why you get like why run away from him? I know that he's not Embiid. Nope, but nobody's Embiid. You have to give your guys opportunities to score in the spots that they are good in scoring at. And like the only person that they try to do that with is Joel, and even that lacks creativity. So it was just frustrating for me, even last night too.
Yeah, yeah, no, there's a lot I agree with there. I mean, they ran the Maxine and Embiid pick and roll, pick and pop, some variation of it, pretty much every
Yeah,
possession throughout crunch time and overtime. The eventual game winner was picked on the slip pass by D'Angelo Russell, which he did telegraph that a little bit. And I mean, it's common sense what they're trying to do. They've been running it
yeah,
for how many minutes now? So good read by D'Angelo Russell that led to the Taurean Prince lay-in to eventually win the game in double overtime. 4 turnovers for Maxi, which is his career high in the NBA. And I mean, he's been tremendous
yeah,
protecting the ball so far this year. So I don't want to criticize him too heavily for that. Uh, these are going to happen. I do think there is a passing of the torch to Maxi growing into a legitimate option on this team. And one of my frustrations that I will say in the first 2 games since Embiid's returned is I think we all loved watching Maxi take over in these games where he was the solidified number one option and the guy that is out there to go get buckets. And I didn't like how much he shied away from going and just continuing to do that. And I think a lot of that is just mentality wise in him. And just like, I understand deferring to guys that are obviously at this point better than you. And at this point, like, I guess have the rights to shots more, but like I want you to be. We're not getting anywhere doing the same thing. So I did see some progress with that in the Magic. There were moments in the T-Wolves game where it was there too. He hit a big three. Maxi, it was at the tail end of the third quarter when the Sixers were going on their run, where Embiid firmly called out the screen. He came around, just pulled. It was a play where the Danny Green, like the weird handoff where he ran up and go
yeah,
there. So there are moments where it's there, and you see the chemistry starting to build between those two. But I would just want him to stay assertive and stay doing that. And frankly, Maxi's like burst and the ability that he has is so refreshing in this offense. And really, the only thing that I see as far as like signs of life is that's just a whole new element that hasn't been there before. And the threat of that needs to stay here for everything else to open up. Like Maxi specifically, his burst opens up everything in his game because you see the way guys drop so heavily just to protect him getting the basket because he's tremendous at it. And he can step into mid range jumpers whenever he wants just because out of fear for that burst. And we see him taking that on. I love that. It's opening everything up, but like we can't go away with it. And there certainly is a lot of give it to Embiid and stand around. Seth Curry, I'm incredibly frustrated for his role in late game offense is pretty much just stand there and watch. And for a guy that's been as dynamic as he has been, like find ways to get this guy involved and open. And I understand Embiid's our best player. He's not. It's awesome that Embiid can do such guard-like things at his size, but that shouldn't be the number one game plan. It shouldn't be give it like set him in a post, let him get with work. If they double, we swing it, and it shouldn't change just because it's in crunch time and forcing looks. So I do agree.
Yeah, it almost seems like, and this is obviously like by no means any sort of disrespect at all, but like they use him like JJ Redick, and like he's not. He's so
Mhm.
like he's the way that JJ Redick would move around the 3-point line is way different than what Seth Curry does. And like Seth Curry is a more gifted ball handler. He gets to the rim better. He's better in the flow in the mid range game. Like I don't know why. Honestly, they should be playing a two-man game with Seth Curry and Embiid. Like that should be the late game offense. Like right now,
I
the
like
fact that
Maxi in there with it, but it shouldn't it shouldn't always have to be one thing. Like part
yeah,
of the beauty of basketball is just there's so many options that like there should be so many different weapons and way you can score. Like we shouldn't be doing the same thing every single possession down. Like they should absolutely both be used in that role, and it's frustrating that that's not the case.
yeah, absolutely. And like you have like Seth Curry's really talented, man, and you see that like last night. You see the way that he's able to get buckets and efficiently. What he's like 10 of 13 last night, 3 of
Yeah,
5 from three. Like
yeah,
and there was a late game situation. I think it was against the Bulls the first time around. Um, he had a couple late crunch time buckets, and it's like he's built like that. Like he can do that. And it's really just frustrating to see. And like again, like you're paying a guy $30 million to take 7 shots a night, and like I guess what it's funny that seems ironic, right? But like Tobias Harris is an offensive player. Like the reason that he's here is to be the second option offensively. And we talked about him being probably a better suited to be a third option, but right now he's the second option. He should step up and like last night, he was 8 of 20, which is, an outlier in terms of his efficiency. He's normally very good.
hmm
17 points. And it's like, I don't know, man. I've just been like, I've been very frustrated watching him recently. Um, I just don't get it. Like last year, we saw such an improvement on the things that he really struggled with in his first season here. And then we're seeing him kind of revert back a little bit to what like he was doing in that Al Horford, Josh Richardson season. Like the play that I tweeted about today where he
yeah.
caught it wide open on
Wide
the
open.
wingman, like there is zero excuse there. And I know he knows that. Like I'm not totally like the way I'm talking about it, it sounds like I'm very concerned about what this team is. And we know that this team's not a championship team without a third player like that, a third star,
Right.
without, a replacement for Ben Simmons. But right now, like the last two games have been like frustrating and concerning in a lot of ways for me. I don't know about you.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. To address the Toby stuff directly, I mean, I hate what a good guy Tobias Harris is. I wish it wasn't the case that like
Yeah.
everybody loves him, that he's such a valuable leadership part of the team. Like from a pure basketball perspective, I absolutely think the Sixers will be better finding another piece for that role. And he's just
Yeah.
not the cut and dry right match for a complementary piece for this roster. Never really has been, and we've been trying to force it. But I do think it would cause waves like amongst the team if there was some sort of deal like that done. And I mean, it's tough to separate like the human side of this thing and the aspect. And I don't think Toby's going anywhere. He's still far from a bad basketball player. There's still a lot of good he does, and he's shown growth with like his distribution and his defense this year in ways that I've been
Yeah.
impressed with. But I mean, do you think when we look at like raising the ceiling of this team, pretty much all we have banking on right now is just how good Maxi can get? Like that's the only really room for
Yeah.
growth we have right now until like obviously the Simmons situation is settled. And if we get a new player in from that is obviously kind of what everything waits on. But I mean, like think about like Toby for like if it was a Harrison Barnes or Buddy Hield type role. Like the difference in spacing and like just on this team, just how fluid everything could be. It's rough. Like Tobias is not a 2021 like style of basketball player, and it just doesn't quite work. And we have too many guys who just live in the mid range right now. So, like you said, the expectations have not been for this team to be a championship caliber team, and we're not going to really be able to evaluate what this is until the Simmons issue is settled and whatever the conclusion that comes to terms. But there are some like just frustrating things that it does feel like the same thing over and over.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that because I literally said like that play that I was talking about earlier. Like my friends were laughing at me because I got so pissed at that. I was like,
Mhm.
"You've got to be kidding me! Like I can't do this anymore with him." And it's not because, like you said, it's not because I don't like Toby, and I think he is a very solid player. Like he's a very good
Yes,
player,
yeah,
and at his best, he's been a fringe all-star. But, like, that's the problem I have with it, man. Like, at his best, he's been a fringe all-star, and he's not a spring chicken anymore. He's not old, but he's well into his prime.
for
And,
sure.
like, this is what Tobias Harris is. What he is very good, and I even laughed, and I was like, "He would've been so good from, like, 2004 to 2006." Like, he would've been an awesome player in the NBA from, like, the early 2000s because he was just fits that mold. He's a big player that can, utilize his speed against smaller guys or utilize his speed against bigger guys and body smaller guys. But, like, it's not conducive to what teams wanna do anymore, especially with this team, and, like, I don't know. I don't even know
Yeah,
what to make of it right now because it's tough because, like, he is such an important player, like you said, an important person in this locker room, and I think he fits Philly well. And I feel like he's kinda slid under the radar in terms of where the blame falls. Maybe not necessarily on him, but, like, how he's here. Like, we talked about it a while ago, like, "Oh, someone else would have gave him 30 million. Someone else would have gave him a max when he was a free agent." I would have loved to see Indiana give him a max, like he was gonna go there, man. Like, that's the place that he should be. That's the kind of like,
I
I
mean,
don't
when
know.
we
It's just really
think
frustrating.
think back to again, I don't want to put too much smut on Toby's name because
Yeah.
like he's still I don't know our guy, but like think
Yeah.
back to even like the how he got here. The trade was obviously when we were going all in. That was with the Jimmy Butler team and formed the best team that there has been as far as just pure talent wise. When it was the Butler, Simmons, Embiid, Harris, and Redick as the starters, and then that offseason, it was the whole run it back motto. Jimmy walked right away. It was kind of like we had if we didn't get Jimmy, we had to get something out of that because both these guys we traded for on at the end of their deals. Like you can't walk away with nothing, so it was kind of a necessity signing Toby, and he's been fine. He honestly, he statistically has been better than the years before he signed him here. He's having some of the best years of career, particularly under Doc. Last year, he was excellent with his numbers, but it's
Yeah.
still not like enough for what we need him to be. And Embiid and a fringe all-star player is not enough to win a legitimate championship. Like that's just not enough to contend for what the goal is here. And sure, I mean, we keep circling back to Simmons as the elf in the room because there's not going to be a true conclusion to this team until that's dealt with. Saw him getting shots up before the game in the Wells
Yeah.
Fargo Center. Said news there. I guess he's not kicking people out the gym at St. Joe's anymore. Uh, so I guess a little bit of progress on that end, but like it is tough giving Toby the good guy pass so consistently.
100%, man. And again, I don't wanna like outwardly slander Toby, and I recently wrote about this. Like, I don't hate Tobias. If he was, you know, not compensated the way that he is, and that shouldn't like slight our view of him because like it's not his fault. Like he should sign the biggest contract he can get, obviously. But the fact that he's here on that deal and he's producing like a guy that you could get for a fraction of that cost, in a position that's like not necessarily not important, but like there's wings and guys that do what he does on both ends and just aren't, you know, I don't even like highly touted the way that he is. And like again, I like him a lot. And in the right situation and at times he's been very good. And he showed last night, like in the first half last night, he was very good. He
Mhm.
took over for like that first half. He did play really well, but then like he just disappears. And I don't know how or why, but like you can't be taking 2.5 3-pointers per game, man. Like you
Yeah,
can't. You can't. And like I said, like a guy that shoots almost 40% last year, like you gotta shoot the ball. And
yeah,
it's not even rocket science. It's you're open, shoot it. You're not open, drive it. And if the drive's not open, pass it. Like it's really I feel like cut and dry for him what he does well and what he doesn't do well. Um, so I don't know, man. It's we could talk about this all day, I'm sure, and kind of just recycle the same points. But we can move on to what we originally wanted to talk about was the dilemma that's been kind of going on a little bit with Danny Green missing some time. Matisse has stepped in. Last night, Danny Green got the start though, which was interesting because Doc had like literally just said that they were going to stick with Matisse. I thought, right? Or did I misread
Yeah.
it?
He kind of Danny Green hinted at it in his like his immediate availability earlier that he's kind of said that that might change tonight, and then Doc kind of said he wasn't going to say anything. So I wasn't shocked by it, but there's always mind games with it.
Yeah. So there's been a little bit of a I don't know a conversation, and I don't think it's a bad conversation by any means, but Danny Green has looked very he's looked his age, if that's the nicest way to say it. He's looked his age for sure.
Mhm.
He's just not like last year we saw the things that he was able to do, and when he's on and when he's shooting the ball well, like he's a very valuable player. And I think he still is a valuable player. It's just the minutes, I don't know if he can keep up, especially late in the game, having played 30 minutes a night. Like it's just not there for him. But Matisse has improved a lot, and I think he deserves a little bit of credit in that space. So there's been a conversation about who should start, and what's your opinion on that?
Yeah, I'm gonna be team Danny Green right here. Is
Okay.
I he's no doubt lost a step, gotten slower. I think the hamstring injury might have taken a couple years off. Chris saw him get up for that
Yeah.
dunk against the Magic, which
Yeah,
I didn't think
man.
he had in him. Uh, as far as what like the need for that role is a guy just to do simple things: is catch and shoot threes, and defend. Matisse is obviously the better defender, but he just doesn't have remotely the respect on the other side of
Yeah.
the floor. Like I think we're gonna run into he's an even worse version of Simmons in the half court in terms of just like you're hiding him to an extent. And when he's standing out on the wing and hiding out there, if guys don't have the respect to at least like be in the
Yeah.
vicinity of him, it clogs everything up. And he hit a three last night against the Magic, and he looked so unconfident shooting it. Like it kind of like he looked nervous catching the ball, going up for it, and then it rattled in, and it's just kind of like a sigh of relief. Like all right, I got that one. And it's just
Yeah.
like we can't be having that in what we need from you there. So as much as like there are valid complaints about Danny Green, like he does exactly what he needs to do. And my frustrations with him this year have been for him doing more than that and not less than that. And it's when he does put the ball on the floor and tries to dribble and do things that's not what I'm having. But I do think he can get back to just being Danny Green and just sitting on the corner and knocking threes. He shot threes at such he led the team in 3-point attempts last year. Just at the rate he shot at was so needed on this roster. And there are the frustrating transition threes, and there's every once in a while where he kind of loses it. But he also defensively is not bad. Like speed wise, he definitely is lost. He can get shook a little bit, but he's excellent at just like the behind the back tap the ball out from behind, which creates things steals. He's had back to back prior to last game. Last game he only had Danny Green. He had one steal, but he had back to back 4 steal games in the 2 games prior with the Timberwolves and Warriors. So, I mean, I think it's there enough. Matisse simply, in my mind, just isn't quite ready yet. I would like to see more growth than there has been.
Yeah, I think I'll agree with you for now. I think they're trying to groom him for that to be
For sure.
the spot. And like again, the starting doesn't necessarily matter as much. I don't think like being a starter compared to like playing the majority of the game. And we've been seeing a lot of Matisse and like he has, I think in terms of attacking the basket and being aggressive in spots where he can score, he's improved a lot. He had that really nice layup last night, getting out in transition and attacking, just even like a one-on-one, going towards the rim. He's so athletic and so long, and he's able to be creative around the rim because he has an athletic advantage on like essentially everyone that he's going
Yeah.
up against. There's maybe a handful of guys in the league I think compete with him physically, athletically, and it's nice to see him like kind of flip that switch because he's been so passive in like every opportunity he's had over the last couple years. But we've seen it just like starting in the Kings game. It felt like he was kind of putting his head down, getting to the rim a little bit more. He had a nice layup last night, and then he got blocked pretty bad off the backboard by Mo
Yeah.
Bamba.
No Bama.
But
Yeah.
like Mo Bamba does that, and that's okay. But I think it's the frustrating part is that jumper. and the fact that like it really hasn't gotten much better. It got actually worse last year than his rookie year, which is like I don't know how, but he
He does he does shoot off the dribble a little more confident. He's had a couple moments where he's put the ball on the floor, kind of step back and shot, or just dribbled into a look, which I guess that's a little new for him. So to give
yeah
him a little bit of credit, there are shades of improvement. Like there are at least signs that something can be there, but there just hasn't been enough of a rate of improvement for what I'd like to see. Like think about the how much Maxi's grown, and I know this is a crazy bar to throw it against because Maxi's probably
yeah
improved more than anyone pretty much ever that we've seen, especially in the Sixers uniform. But like Matisse has had such elementary signs of growth compared to that, and it's just like this
yeah.
guy's now been around for what is this his third or fourth season here now?
This is a third.
Third. So like
Yeah, the
not that
COVID season was his rookie year, so it feels
yeah,
like two.
yeah, you're right. And he came in an old rookie. He spent all 4 years at Washington. So it's like this
Yeah,
is a guy that it's starting to get into. It's time for you to contribute. And not that he's not, because he's obviously a difference maker on this team and the fact that we can throw him on a guy and change the game. But they're just like he should be locked in a gym and just be shooting 1,000 3-pointers a game every single day. Like that should be his offseason routine. So I would like to see more. I think Danny Green's the guy, at least for now.
yeah, and I said this the other night, and not to bring up bad memories at all, but the Mikal Bridges draft pick, man, that one hurts the most. It
Yeah, I
really,
will
really
say
does.
I will say people act like Mikal Bridges would if we had him right now, we would be winning the championship. And I think it's a little overstated how much of a difference it would make. He absolutely would have helped this team and is absolutely like a need, but I don't
Yeah,
think it's as big of a deal as people make it.
dude. Right now, though, he's like the mix of Danny Green and Matisse in terms of what they're good at right now. Like Danny is
Yeah.
obviously like he's up there in the shooting department, but like defensively, Bridges is locked down on 1 through 4, and he can shoot and he can get to the rim, and he's a fantastic transition player. And man, and maybe if you have Bridges, you don't have Matisse, and you love Matisse for what he is, but damn, dude, damn
Yeah.
it, like that one's the one that like when you sit down and you deal with the Fultz, you deal with the Okafor, you deal with all those other guys, and then that draft, dude.
Yeah. I mean,
You could have had
maybe it
Shea, you could have had Bridges, you could have had. I mean, I don't know how much you want MPJ right now, but damn it, dude,
yeah, maybe it's just me being hurt too many times already and my soul already being
being
cold,
numb,
but
man.
yeah, I think about the Okafors, the Noels, there's so much that like little breaks here and there would have us looking prettier here, but Bridges would certainly be nice right now.
All the other ones like don't like all the other ones are like kind of understandable mistakes. But and dude, the funniest part is that the fact that it was Brett Brown. It was Brett Brown's draft. That was the
I
one that he was the interim GM for like 2 days, and they let
yeah,
him be the interim GM for a draft, and he freaking swapped Mikal Bridges for Zaire Smith and a protected first.
I will say I still stand by. I was a big Zaire Smith guy, and I cannot believe this. Like you can't judge a guy
Yeah.
off almost dying from an allergy, and
Oh, it's nothing against Zaire at all. It's just
yeah,
Bridges is so good.
yeah. I do think Zaire would have been a contributing player, and like it sucks that his career has gone the way he has. The literally the guy literally almost died from the allergy attack and
Yeah.
lost a ton of weight. His game whole changed from a guy that was super physical and that, and he's never gotten it back. So sucks for him and tough to fully compare it. But I was a Zaire guy. Bridges
Yeah.
obviously turns out would have been the right call.
Jaden Springer in the small amount that I've seen him does kind of remind me of Zaire Smith in ways. Do you think or no?
Jaden Springer to me is a football player playing basketball. Like
Yeah.
he runs like
He is
Zion.
built
He's
like that. Yeah.
6'4". Like he reminds me of like any like big strong football player that you're playing pickup with. And
Yeah.
I still see the signs are there, but this guy is years away from contributing to an NBA team. And
Yeah.
it is frustrating. Like I get the best player available mentality, but this kid, he's not nearly ready yet. And he's doing his thing at the Blue Coats. He's had a couple 20-point games.
Yeah.
Had 5 steals the other day. He's shown some signs, but I mean, he's years away.
Yeah. Which is, it's okay. I think right now it's okay for him to be that far away. But you wanted to talk a little Kemba and
Yeah.
talk to me about that.
Yeah, so Kemba's out of the rotation, and for the Knicks, Tom Thibodeau said he's pretty much
Out of the
not going to play.
rotation, meaning he's not a starter anymore. He's just not going to play.
My understanding was not going to play, but I'm sure he'll get some sort of limited minutes.
He's
So
bad.
basically, yeah, $8 million contract. Do you have any interest in Kemba? His stats are not good whatsoever.
No, I don't. I
Okay.
really don't, and, like you said, the $8 million contract is, like, a lot, especially if you're probably considering him a backup or, like, you can't play him in the same backcourt as Seth Curry, like,
Yeah, or Maxi.
or Maxey. I mean, but, like, Kemba's not the, like, outside scorer that Curry is, so he doesn't even add that aspect to it. Like, I think the points of attack for Kemba and Maxey are similar that it would, like, hurt offensively and then just, like, double hurt defensively, where, like, Maxey and Curry are complementary, so they help you offensively, and then defensively, like, it still hurts kinda bad, because they're just both so small. And Kemba, I mean, if you want him to be your backup, you're just paying a lot for him to be your backup.
Yeah, I guess my interest on him would kind of rely on him being bought out if that's the conclusion here, and I'm sure they'll shop him around for a while before that happens. But I guess my what I was looking at him as is kind of like a Shake Milton upgrade, and I don't think Shake's necessarily good enough to do. I've been pretty frustrated with Shake too, so
Yeah.
uh, plugging him ahead of that, I don't get as caught up in as I guess a lot of people would. In my mind, like however good you are is however good you are, and I don't really care the price tag that comes with it. It's like what you bring to the team, and I feel the same way when there's a lot of like best contract in the league chatter and stuff. It's like, all right, well that
Yeah.
guy's making $5 million less than this guy, but they're doing the exact same things on a basketball
Yeah.
court. So don't get too caught up in it. I feel a little bit like that with Kemba. I don't think he's done. Like I think he has a little bit left in the tank. He's looked bad this year. I do think he's a guy Maxi could learn from. And if he is like sitting behind Maxi and serving like a complimentary bench role and running the second unit in a way that I think would be better than what Shake does right now, I do think the Sixers are missing like a uh, another ball handler, a guy that can run the offense, a guy kind of like George Hill that just isn't George Hill. And so I
Yeah.
think Kemba could kind of serve in that kind of swing, but this isn't a, wouldn't be a difference making move by any means, but something to think about.
Yeah, I guess so, and it's gonna be I think it's gonna be fun to see who, ends up kinda shaking free in terms
Hmm.
of, like, guys of that caliber that, like, are seen as starters, but then, like, end up falling off because it happens every year. It happens that there's gonna be guys that are in the rotation, end up, out of the rotation or who it might be, so I don't know, I think that he's, like, on the priority list is very, very low,
Yeah.
just of what the Sixers big picture looks like. I don't know how well Kemba Walker fits. If he's like a guy that you feel if there's a Simmons trade made and you're like, okay, we could use still a backup point guard and he's cheap in terms of trade value, or if he gets bought out and you can get him cheap, I have no problem with it. I just don't know if I'd really be like targeting him if that's what I
Yeah.
don't know though. I like Kemba and I really I hated watching him on the Celtics because I've always liked him. And
Hmm.
he always kills the Sixers, so it'd be nice to not have to deal with that shit. So, like, I feel like even when he's playing badly, like he even played well against the Sixers when they played the Knicks like 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. And I mean, yeah, like you said, I was always been a Kemba guy too, ever since the
Yeah.
UConn days. So it would be cool to kind of have him at least, but nothing to get excited about. And now, looking forward a little bit. So Sixers now sit 11-10. Not, I guess, the spot that they would hope to be in. They're about to take off on the road again. Uh, Celtics, Hawks, Hornets back to back before coming home against the Jazz. So what do you think of those next four?
Ugh. I wish I was more confident.
Hmm.
Um, really do. The Hawks defense is bad.
Hmm.
The Celtics are kind of in the middle of like Celtics started out terribly and then they've been playing better. And I think people still kind of think that they're terrible, but Jalen Brown is really good. Jason Tatum's really good. And they're figuring it out. It's going to be fun playing against Al Horford again. I'm going to
And Josh
enjoy
Richardson.
that. And Jay Rich, but I don't hate Jay Rich the way I hate Al Horford.
Hmm.
There's not a lot of guys I dislike more in the league than Al Horford. And
I,
from the time that I hated him on the Celtics to then him coming here and being ass and then leaving, like there's no good feeling in my heart about Al Horford.
I do think it's very funny how many fan bases have now talked themselves into Josh Richardson and hand up. I was right there with them. It's just like a this guy
Yeah.
looks like he should be good at basketball. Like he competes the way basketball players should. He has the feel about it, but just not there. He just can't shoot well enough. He can't handle the ball on. He just not quite it. And
He
I
doesn't
don't
do it.
dislike Josh Richardson either, but he's just not good enough
He
to be a
doesn't do anything at like a high level. Like
yeah,
even as a defender, he's like good and he's very like energetic, but like physically, like he's not as athletic as like you'd think he would be.
yeah. It's like
He
fake
doesn't.
it's almost like fake effort too. It's
It's
like
like Pat Bev.
yeah, I like look like I know what I'm doing right now, but I don't really know if I'm
Yeah.
getting anything done. So yeah, but somehow the
Yeah, love
Celtics
there's love for Jay Rich.
yeah,
There's love for Jay Rich, I feel like.
yeah. I think I'm glad. I mean, the Curry trade was obviously phenomenal because of how good he's been.
Good
But I
God.
think if Josh Richardson had lingered around in Philly, that there would not be love for Jay Rich at this point.
Yes, I think you're right. I think if he had spent another year here, I think everyone would have turned sour on him very he's just not good. And the fact that the Mavericks like I feel like this does get like talked about a lot, so I'm not gonna say it doesn't get talked about, but damn dude, like what were the Mavericks thinking?
Yeah.
That's like one of the worst trades I think I've seen. Like just starter for starter.
Mhm.
What were they thinking?
Yeah, I don't have a good answer. I'm very happy that they were cool with it and it worked out the way it did. But
Yeah. Phew.
it still has consistently blown my mind how long it's taken Curry to find like a true home. And he did start
Yeah.
with the Mavericks and serve some good minutes, but like guys just he's very bad defensively, so it is kind of hard to like you can't just wipe that from the script. But he's a terrific shooter and just an all time great statistically. So I mean, we found a use for him, and they're he's hidden a lot of flaws in the Sixers team and how good he's been so far.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, no complaints at all. But then to go in, I think they'll probably I think they'll probably split with the Hornets.
Hmm.
Um, is one of like they're both on the road, or one of them's
Both,
at home and both on the road.
yeah, both at Charlotte.
Uh, I hope they split with them. I think they go 2-2. If
Yeah,
I'm being honest, I think they beat the Celtics.
I like that.
And then who do they have after that?
The Hawks, Celtics,
The
Hawks,
Hawks.
Hornets,
Ooh,
Hornets.
I want to say they go 3-1, but I don't know if I'm confident in that. I'd really love to see them beat the Hawks.
Yeah,
Um, but to go to Atlanta after playing Boston, who knows? I think they go 2-2. I don't know which games they win and lose. I think they split with the Hornets and then they'll win one of the two of Boston and Atlanta.
yeah. I think I'm pretty good with that too. I think I agree 2-2. Uh, yeah, I think I agree with what you're saying there. I just want them to stay above 500 at least, so the
Yeah.
alarms don't fully need to panic. I mean, like, think about like I still reflect on we were 8-2 to start the year, and this team looks very good. I think the more that the starting lineup will stay together, the better it will be, and there will start to be some chemistry and everything built up. They looked really good at the start of this year. I think they can get back to at least close to that, and hopefully, guys just stay healthy. It keeps getting built up, but they do need to take care of business on this 4 game road trip.
Can we talk about how bad Furkan has been, dude?
Yeah, he has. That's your
He's
boy.
been terrible. Yeah, it hurts my heart to watch him be so bad. I haven't been confident in a Furkan jumper in weeks, dude.
Yeah.
He's been bad. Everything misses. Like he took a shot last night, like wide open in the corner. It's like 5 feet off. Like he missed by like multiple feet. I'm like, damn, how do you miss that? Like not because it's not any like a hard shot, but like Furkan doesn't. When Furkan's at his best, he doesn't miss a lot of those open shots. Like I feel like he's one of those, and there's been a lot of like those momentum shots that you feel like Furkan hits a lot, like where the ball ends up swinging back to him on like a transition play, and it's like, oh, Furkan's gonna pull this one, and it goes in. It hasn't. I can't remember the last time he hit one of those. It's been a shame. I feel like more than anything, it's just been a shame.
Yeah, when Ferk's not hitting, it's not great having him on the court because, I mean, we've played around with him as a ball handler and doing that, and he's been fine in that. He hasn't been doing that either, so he's kind of just been out there doing a lot of nothing, and it
Cardio.
is, yeah, cardio, but it is disappointing considering how hot he was to start the year and
Yeah.
all the excitement over him staying around. And I still love Ferk, but yeah, he has been hurting lately.
Yeah, and I think so. Seth Curry made a point the other night, and he was just like, "We're not doing anything well, really." Like after last night's game, he was
Yeah,
like, "We're not really doing anything well," and like we won this game because we're better, but like we did not play well, and I think they all realize that. I don't think they're gonna like. It might take a little bit, like you said, like meshing a little bit back again and get everyone like in a groove. But I'm not like worried about them being a bad team. The thing I worry about is them being a contender. And again, there's still a lot that has to be done before they're really considered a contender. But like, I don't think the concern has ever been that they'll find a way to be a good team. They'll be a good team. Though, but like it looks like right now their best seems to be like
a plan.
a middle of the road team. Yeah, like 5 through 8 seed, and that sucks. That's not fun. That is not fun. I don't want to do that again.
Yeah.
And like that's what we avoided for this long. And I don't know if that's something that is going to have to change like soon. I don't know how comfortable Maury is with that for right now. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. But again, I think Furkan's gonna get back into it. Like he's been in a slump, shooter slump. It happens. And B's getting back to fully healthy. DG Harris is gonna get back onto it. Like I'm not fully concerned yet. I think the concern that I do have falls in the fact that they're just not that good. Like they
Yeah.
haven't been playing up to their standards, but right now their standards I don't think are good enough. So that's just where I'm at right now.
Yeah. Until number 2-5 either decides to play or is traded. That's kind of what we're looking at with this team is we know what we have. They're obviously better than a lot. There's a lot of teams still better than them. So they are a middle of pack kind of playing type team right now. And I mean, that's disappointing to hear. I think it'll get a little better from what we've seen these past couple games, but my expectations are not that the ceiling will be particularly high.
Yeah. So we're just gonna have to see where it goes, right?
Hmm.
It's been a difficult stretch. And again, they've had a really tough schedule, really. They played a lot of good teams early on. Then they went on the longest road trip of their season during a time where their best two players were out for the majority of it. And then they come back for two games, one of them being a double overtime game, and then they go right back on the road for four straight. Like that's a tough stretch. Let's not be uh, timid about saying that. I think that that's for any team is a difficult stretch, and it's still so early. They're still figuring it out. So as much as I have been critical of them recently, I think that I'm pumping the brakes on myself a little bit, getting ahead of myself a bit. But aside from that, I don't have much else. You got anything else?
Yeah, I'm good to go. We'll get back with you after the Celtics game.
Yes, sir.